everyone, I'm Renee Hiatt. Welcome to Tutorial Tuesday, week 7. Can you believe we're at week 7? Anyhow, last week you focused on putting together the Bloom V-Star blocks. This week we're going to focus on doing the 5 diamond blocks because there's 5 diamonds. The construction is going to be very much the same. You are going to need to lay out your blocks, make sure you have all your pinks coming in to form that star in the center, and you're going to have your greens all on the outside. You're going to construct them by putting them into rows just like last week, and you're going to pay close attention to doing your precision pinning at this interchange here, and this interchange here, this interchange here, and this interchange here. So if you missed it, look at last week's video, and I will show you close up how to put together those points and make sure that you hit them each time. Today I want to focus on cutting those setting squares and the corner squares so that next week we're able to talk about laying out your quilt and putting your quilt together. So I'm going to reposition the camera and I'm going to walk you through how to cut those setting triangles. Okay, so it's a little hard to get the full focus because of the size of the squares that we need to cut. If you are making a throw, you're going to need to cut 15-inch squares. If you're making the double, sorry, I always forget which is the middle size here. The double, you're going to be making 19¼ inch squares. You're going to be cutting, I should say. And if you're making the queen, you're going to be making or cutting 23½ inch squares. So I want to go down from the top size first. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you've invested in at least one large square. I have many. I'm a little bit of a freak. This is the Creative Grids 20½ inch. So that would help if you were making the double or the throw. But it still won't get you all the way up to the queen size at 23½. But I'm going to show you a double ruler trick for that. Alright, so if you were making the throw, a 15½ will help you, and you won't even need a second ruler. And there's also a Creative Grids 16½ that will also work for the throw size. Alright, and of course the large square would work for your double size at 19½. But first let's talk through the queen size. So you want to make sure that you have a nice clean edge. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the math on my favorite size ruler, which is the 18-inch Quilter Select ruler. So I'm going to do the math. I have a 6½ inch long ruler that if I add another ruler to it, I should be able to get to 23½. So I'm going to say 23½ minus my 6½ leaves me 17. So I'm going to take my 18-inch square and I'm going to go over and line it up. I don't remember, unless I absolutely have to, use the numbers or the grid on the mat. Alright, so I've lined up my 17 inches now, and I'm going to go ahead and line up my 6½ right next to it. So 17½ and 6½ would give me the 23½, and I'd go ahead and make my cut. I'm doing the throw, so I'm not going to waste my background fabric on that. But you get the idea, and you would do the square exactly the same. Alright, if you are cutting the double size, you basically need 19¼ If you don't have a 20½ inch square, you would do the double ruler the same way. Here I'm going to go ahead and line up my Sorry, I'm just going to turn this, actually. So I'm demonstrating in right-handed. My poor lefties with me. So I'm going to line up, sorry, get myself straightened out here. These big rulers are a lot to handle. All right, so I'm going to make sure I have it set up properly. So I'm going to count off my 19 1/4, and I'm going to take another line and line it up on the bottom. Let's get this a little neater here. All right, so 19 1/4, a line on the bottom of the selvage there, and I'm going to go 19 1/2 all the way up, and then I'm able to actually put a long ruler next to it, right, to get me my length, and then I would pull this away and do my cut. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the 15. I'm going to do that all the way through. So for my size, the throw size, I need 15. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up the 15 on the edge and line it up on my bottom selvage. Take my long ruler, if you are a righty, and line that up next to it. I'm going to scoot this away. Oops, I moved that a bit. And these, you don't want to shortchange yourself, but if you ended up cutting a smidge bigger, there's no problem there because we're going to trim it down anyhow. All right, so I've made my first cut. I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side. And now I'm going to cut my squares. So now this becomes really easy, at least for the 15 1/2 with a larger square. The 19 1/4 becomes easy if you have a 20. And then the 23 1/4, unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, there's currently no 24 1/2 on the market, or I would have it. And I'm just going to clean up the selvage here. Mine's a petite, so it doesn't have much of a selvage. And then I'm going to move it over and do the 15 to catch that left-handed action. All right, so now I'm going to do the 15. All right, and then you can put this aside since you're unable to get another 15 out of it. Or I might be able to with mine because of it. No, it's still a little tight. With batiks, they're usually a little wider, especially with that thin selvage, but I'm still not able to get another 15. So you're only going to be able to get 2 15s out of your strip. If you're doing the 19 1/4, again, only 2, and the 23 1/2, only 2. So save your remnant of what's left over to cut your corner square triangles. All right, so now these squares get cut diagonally twice. And some people say, oh, I'm just going to cut a smaller square and only cut it in half. The reason that we cut this in quarters is because we want the straight of grain to end up on the outside of our block. And that is why the corner units are cut in half, because you want the straight of grain on the outside edge. So let me take you through it. All right, so here we're going to go point to point. Right, corner to corner, and I'm going to make my first cut. And then I'm going to turn it, go point to point. I realize I'm going right and left-handed, and you'll have to do a little turning. But hey, if you're able to do it, why not show it off, right? All right, sorry. Okay, so here's my straight of grain. These are going to be my side setting triangles, and therefore the bias is here where I'm going to end up putting my blocks. And so these are all going to have the straight of grain on the outside, which is going to make sure that my quilt does not stretch when I set it on point. All right? Okay. And then this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut. I would probably give it a little press first. Hold on, let me go do that. All right. Not the best, but you get the idea. All right, so now this, I have to cut 7 3/4. If you're doing the double, you're going to cut it at 10 inches. And if you're doing the queen, you're going to cut it at 12 inches. So in the pattern, I have that you cut another strip. For some of these, you may not be able to get anything out of the remnants. But for this one, I am able to. So I'm going to first cut this at 7 3/4. I'm able to get, you know, one out of here. I might be able to get two, but I think it's going to be a little tight since it didn't make 15. All right, so I did the 7 3/4. I'm just going to check. Nope, I knew I'd be short. So this can be used, and I have it in the pattern, that your leftovers can be used to cut your piano keys. Okay, so go ahead and put that aside. And I'm going to cut this at 7 3/4 again. There we go. All right. And then this one, that's also piano keys. And then this one gets cut in half. So your corner, and you only need 2 of these squares, and then you're going to cut them in half, and that's going to give you your 4 corners. And so here, these will go up in my corner of my quilt, right? And then these are my setting triangles. And so the straight of grain here is on the outside, and the bias on the inside. Whenever we construct a quilt, we always want, even a block, you always want your straight of grain on the outside. So that's why when I see the folks doing the half square triangles like on the tube, you end up with bias on the outside. It's like building a house on quicksand. So I think I've squared you away now on how to cut your setting triangles and your corner triangles. And then all your remnants, you want to go head through and cut your piano keys. All right, well that does it for today. You are all set to go ahead and make your 5 diamond blocks, as well as cut your setting triangles and your corner triangles. So you're going to want to make sure you get them all together, so next week we can go ahead and put together our quilt. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. If you are watching this actually at the scheduled time at 3:30 Eastern, right behind this at 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to actually be doing a Facebook Live talking about using fat quarters, pulling fat quarters for quilts that require fat quarter usage, such as my mystery that's starting on May 22nd. So I'm going to talk through how to go ahead and analyze a quilt bundle, as well, or a fat quarter bundle, as well as pulling from your stash, and then supplementing a fat quarter bundle. So I hope you'll join me. Take care and have a great week. I'll see you next week.